Hi. Hi. So ladies and gentlemen, we will begin in 2 minutes. If you are drinking your coffee, please bring your coffee back to this desk and get prepared. So we'll start in 2 minutes. Welcome back. I hope that you have fully recharged during the break. And now we are moving to the case study. And today we are very honored to have two special guests with us to talk about their project, Missing Picture, 蔡明亮. Without further ado, let's welcome the Stella Chen from Serendipity Films and also Lai Guanyuan from Boca Boca Studio.
Hello, everyone.
Yeah. Oh.
Hi, everyone. I'm Stella Valdivieso Chan. I am the CEO and the producer of Serendipity Films.
Hello. I'm Guanyuan Lai. I'm the producer and the director of Poke Poke Creative.
It's really a pleasure to be here to share our experience in working in co-productions with friends, and especially that we just finished a project, Missing Picture, 蔡明亮, this year. We also prepared a presentation. If it's okay to place our presentation on the screen. Great, thank you. So to give you a little bit of an overview of what's Missing Picture, probably a lot of you already know that Missing Picture is actually a episodic series about directors that haven't, about stories of the directors that never get to be made. Next page, please. So Serendipity jumped on board into this project in 2019. I met, ever since I met Antoine, the producer in Alice 5, that I was really keen to find a project to work with them. So when Antoine presented Missing Picture, it kind of felt like a Serendipity film, a Serendipity project, because Serendipity has this background in films, series, and immersive content. So we really thrive with working on, stories that can challenge storytellings, and also over the past years, a lot of immersive work that we've done. We already collaborate with French partners. So for us, working on Missing Picture, jumping on board Missing Picture, it was to kind of explore more possibility in co-production, what else we can do, what are the possibility in terms of bringing more resources and gather them together. So before we get into Missing Pictures, just for you to take a little bit of a sneak peek, what are the projects that Serendipity has produced?
Save Taiwan once and for all. We need to make the people believe Taiwan can be as powerful as other great places.
As mentioned earlier by Aurelion and Thomas, that we already worked with Digital Rise in 2 projects in the past years. And we find it great to work with French partners because I think that for the Taiwan immersive content, we are actually in an early phase. We're just diving into searching different possibilities. And when I started working in immersive content in 2017, 2018, I realized there's a lot of people that were already ahead of us in France. And so over the years, we get to work on these different projects to really build experiences and to find our position as a company, how we can work with people. And so a lot of the content that Serendipity worked on and like to take part of is to find an Asian content position into the project that we contribute in, because we believe that Taiwan could be a very good key of the Asian market and a good partner to kind of bring in different cultural understanding and background too. Next page, please. So as I mentioned earlier, Missing Picture is about stories that, movies that never was made by great master directors. And the very first episode was by Abel Ferrara. And when I started talking to Antoine, they were already starting the interview with Abel Ferrara. And they were looking for more partners to get involved. And knowing that concept, I know that it's important for a episodic series to have a Taiwan director on board. And that kind of led us into Missing Pictures Haiming Liang. Next page, please. So it's a 6 episode project, and the idea is that we actually now already have other episodes director we already filmed and are working on post-production with, and we use the volumetric capture system to capture those directors and place them in VR, and so that we can create this story world that they had in mind and put them in there, put our spectator in there to feel like they're in front of you, showing you, touring you into that story world. Next page, please. Thank you. And one of the interesting thing about how we built our partnership is that, as Atlas already brought Arte and BBC on board when we met them. And from our side, we realized that, for able to have a project to, communicate to mainstream audiences, broadcasters are a very important role for distributions. And so we approached PTS Taiwan first to get them on board to really join this kind of broadcasting alliance, and then follow up with TAICA's resource that was able to bring Serendipity in as a co-producers in Missing Picture, and also kind of before and ahead every other financing partner. And when you see that there's all this partner, there are also the additional resources that they, Atlas 5 was able to bring in from France, from the regional, and also with Luxembourg partners. And who we added this year was Korea. So we were able to use this episodic strategy to kind of build partnership along, in the course of 3 years, basically. So that's kind of something that we try very differently from a lot of other projects that I had. A lot of time that we try to do co-production and try to find resources for one specific project. But we had this episodic that kind of give us a little bit time and space to build the partnership for the overall strategy. Next page, please. So just to give you guys a little bit of understanding of what we made so far, so I played 2 teasers, and the first one will be Abel Ferrara. Next.
The one film that meant the most to us that didn't get made was a movie called Birds of Prey, which was written around 1980 by Nikki St. John, right after we did Miss 45. It's going to be a film about revolution in the United States, set in New York in the future where corporations have completely taken over.
And for the Taiwan partner, we have director Tsai Ming Liang that's very well renowned, and we believe that because Tsai Ming Liang also kind of is a different type of director from Abel. Abel Ferrara is an American indie film director, so he has a group of his audience. And for Tsai Ming Liang, he also is an art house master, but he also has a very different group of fan base. So the idea of Missing Picture, having directors with different kind of genre, really helps us to reach out to more directors, more audiences as much as possible, and that's what we are. Like follow-up episodes are also kind of aimed towards that direction. Next page, thanks.
你问我有没有什么东西想拍，结果没拍的？其实我没有都在看电影啊。我的那个时代，那些记忆，我不觉得我拍得出来。
So for every episode, like the idea is also to bring in different artistic style, as you see, because every storyteller, every director that's get involved, they will have their own way of telling story. So we also have the first one that was already made, and the animation was done in France. at Beyond Studio. And then in the second one, we kind of brought in the Taiwan resources to take part with. Next page, please. And in order to do that, for us, it's very important to have Taiwan participation to be as much as possible. And that's kind of how David Lai Guanyuan took part. We had Clement Deneux to be our whole series director. He's the one that overlooks every single episode. And he did the very first one the year before we did the second one. So he knows like the kind of difficulty that he already faced. He's able to kind of reflect on it and see how he can do the second episode. And in order to bring in more Taiwanese resources, like animation studio using the volumetric capture here in Taiwan to communicate with Tsai Ming Liang, helping them understand what we are trying to do, we brought in David in order to bridge the conversation and dialogue. So here, next page, please. Here, I will be here to kind of ask some questions to David and let David share a little bit more about how he collaborated with Clement.
Okay. Actually, very easy. No. Okay. Due to the COVID-19, we know in this co-production, we only have the online meeting for every work. So it was hard, but we have very intensive discussion. First of all, because to join this episode, to join this series, we need to reach lots of consensus of the concept art, scenario, and the style of animation, etc. In order to accomplish the second episode to have its own style, and because different master, they have different stories, they have different status. Anyway, with Clement, yeah, sorry, we pass to the next question because
Sure,
I
no
think
problem. So yeah, I mean, I think one of the interesting part, like I want to share a little bit, is that one of the interesting part about this collaboration with Clement is that you basically kind of had to be the voice of Clement, right? Like, so a lot of time that, Clement has this idea and concept that this is what he needs to present to Tsai Ming Liang. And this is how we wanted to portray Tsai Ming Liang's kind of childhood memory, to honor his childhood memory. There was actually a lot of communication on that part, right?
Yeah, okay. As you see the trailer of episode 2, at the very beginning, Tsai Ming Liang already said that he actually doesn't have mixing picture. So we need to rewrite the scenario with Clement. So it's like I write one version and pass to each other. We write together, and during the interviews, many times of interviews with Tsai Ming Liang, even after interviews, even after shooting 40 views shooting, we still write the scenario because the processes of the Tsai Ming Liang, how does he work, is really a little different. We need to change the concept.
The standard of workflow, right? Because we kind of structure the very first episode's workflow, knowing exactly how we want to do this, but every director is different. So how do you kind of craft it around the interviewee, the director that we spoke to. And with that, we were able to kind of apply it to the following episodes with other directors as well, because we realized that even the original workflow there are certain parts that can be adopted by different directors. And I think one of the most interesting thing about this project is that this is a documentary series. So using volumetric for documentary. Next page, please. I think using volumetric for documentary, I think there were a lot of challenges.
Yeah, we are thanks to we are supported to by the IP lab for the view for the volumetric capture, and the Mongshan animation studio. They helped us to develop the concept art and the CG art and the Unreal Engine part. And of course, we need to mention that the French studio Avion, they have produced episode 1, so they shared lots of experience, and we have many technical exchange to discussion, and that's how it works for technical part. Yeah.
Yeah, and also I think that in terms of working with Moonshine animation studios here in Taiwan, a lot of times that they have great artistic view and experiences, but I think that in the co-production, a lot of time that what we all lack of experience of and what we need to try to overcome is how do we work with each other in the same way, because we are from Taiwan and the partners were from France. Everybody kind of works in a different, not only time zone, but also there's a different working culture. So I think that when we started to coordinate this project, we realized that there is a lot of communication necessary. And one of the good skill that Davi had is she actually went to, after graduating in France, so he was able to communicate with Clement in French and be able to deliver what needs to be shared to the Taiwanese team more accurately, and also how Abion's contribution was also interesting because Clement, we couldn't fly Clement to Taiwan because of the pandemic, so Clement was able to be there working with Abion on some of a few artistic direction, and they all be able to send it to Taiwan, and then with that we grow more from that basic concept. So I think there are those kind of ways to bring collaboration more, make it better. Next page, please.
Okay, I think actually the difficulty that I have just mentioned, the how we tell the story has changed, because the Camille Liang's his working processes is kind of different, and then we need to balance. The second part is we need to balance many things like computer performance, and concept art, computer performance, and the CG part. That there are many details that we wanted, but we need to.
Yeah, it's an optimization issue because we wanted to do it in Quest 2. So the original work was actually much more rich, but we go through that process of cutting down so we can have a better project. So that was definitely the most difficult part for us, to cut some part that we have to let go.
Yeah, at the same time we are facing the audience, the fans of Camille Liang, and the general audience who doesn't know Camille Liang, and also the investor and many people. So we need to balance many things to have
the right look. Yeah. Okay, next one. Thank you. You.
Yeah. Okay. We know that the international co-production, actually there are too many kinds of collaboration. So I have the different cases with German team now here media. Speak to Awaken is a series of voice-based interactive documentary, and the topic is talking about to save the endangered language. And the interesting thing is like before we meet with German team, actually we have already started episode 1, and they have already started another episode. Episode is after we put on, and because we after meeting we found that we have the same topic, and we have really similar way to present our project. Is we'd like to make audience to speak in the documentary. So we found something difficulty in our project, like the endangered language is really a narrow topic. So to cooperate with German team, we is in order to arouse the attention of public, and to exchange some technical experience. So that's how we cooperate. Yeah.
Next page, please. Okay. Yeah, I can share a little bit. I guess for me, finding international partner, I find international partners like events like this. So I'm very happy to always be sharing about my what I've done, but also the kind of projects that I like to produce are projects that I can, I can bring contribution to. So as you see that there are, as you've been participating to the workshop here, you notice that there are different resources here in Taiwan. But I think for my role and the way that I think is that I look for projects that I realize I can participate more, and I can be able to kind of help communication and kind of utilize all these different resources domestically. And also in terms of the distribution and the marketing plan, I actually really enjoy finding projects that can help me build new networks. So I think that's one of the key of co-production, right? Like you meeting partners that sharing different experiences, and maybe being able to, so you don't have to spend that so much time building that something that somebody else already had spent time built on. By working with them, you actually kind of save yourself some effort. And also in terms of market, I think it's, even though it's, we used to travel everywhere, but it's hard to be everywhere anyway. So how do you build partners in France, for instance? France is actually a huge, big market. How do we find a partner that knows how to bring the most resources of your project for your project in their own territory? And I think that's the key of co-production for me, like in order to find those kind of partners to actually make your job a little bit easier. I think one of the interesting thing about Missing Picture was that, over the years, Antoine gathered me and then gathered more partners in Luxembourg, more partners in Korea. And then we all still work super hard in our own territory and able to build more resource, find more resource, and gather them together so we can have one project as a alliance, and to say, here, this is what we have together, and this is our strategy together. Yeah. Anything you want to add in?
Well, for me, to find an international partner, we really care about the things we care in this world, like many social issue, and the things, the way to present this project, and the interest.
Yeah, I think creative understanding is also a very important part in co-production. Like, yes, I talked about resource sharing and all that. I think that is good, but if you don't share a mutual understanding of art, if you don't have a mutual vision in the piece, then all this is just, it could go to waste. All the resources, you can't really gather each other's mind. So in order to find a good co-producer, I think a lot of time that, I spend a lot of time working with them in the early phase, in development phase even, like, knowing where you want to take this project and how you're shaping it and how can I help shape it in a better way. One of the example I think we can share, Thomas in the group here on Skype here also knows, like, we work super hard together in the early phase of Mechanical Souls, in able to kind of find the perspective that we want to speak to the audience. Who are our audience? We have, Europeans. We also have Asians. How do we talk about an Asian futuristic wedding in a way that Asian people can relate to, and the Western people can kind of also satisfy a little bit of their Asian fantasy? So how do you find a balance that there is something exotic, but also the Asian people don't feel like, our culture is being, used for just for entertainment without real any depth. So I think like those kind of things are a conversation with your partners that you can. For me, it was really a great experience working with Digital Rise because we were very honest partners. We were able to kind of get there and say, this works for me and my culture. So how do we find a balance there? And so the creative conversation in the early phase, I think is as you say, is a very important part.
Yeah, can check if there's any questions.
Is anybody has any questions? I'll be very happy to kind of share.
Thank you, Estela. Thank you, David. I think we have a questions from the audience online. It says, what is the specialty and what is in the immersive ecosystem in France they decided to work with them? Like, what is it? What is so special about them? And also, what is available there that you decided to work with France this time?
I think from the very beginning, when I just started working in immersive content, I noticed that, the resource in Taiwan is never going to be enough because we are in this immersive space is such a big world to build together. And when we, the very first time I went to New Images, I met all these industry players in France. And I was so surprised that there were so many of them already and they all know each other so well. And they were not only producers, they were distributors, they were, theaters, they are people from different fields, and they were all there in New Images sharing their experiences. And that kind of gave me a really good cultural shock that I felt like this is something that should happen here in Taiwan as well. I come from film industry, and not even film industry are that open and that sharing, and that needs to be here in Taiwan. So I came back to Taiwan. I spoke to Oh Hae-ryun at the time. I said, we need to do a co-production with friends so we can bring that culture here. We can kind of build a culture here also internally for our creators, but also when we kind of stand up together, we can also meet creatives like you here online with us in order to see how we can put the pieces together, because I don't think that we can do this alone.
Thank you. I think we have the last question. The last question is, in this film, Missing Picture, what was missing that you didn't expect to happen, that you would do something different next time in the next film?
That's a very good question because I've never thought about that. Let me think. Like, what's missing? I think we are always missing, new stories and opportunities. And for me, I wouldn't say I would do anything that differently because I think every episode we learn from the different situation. Like even last week, we just shot our final episode, and by the end, I actually felt really proud of ourselves that we were able to do a virtual shooting with the experience of we had in Missing Picture 2. Now virtual shooting is super easy for us, and we are virtually communicating with partners in Korea and in Japan, and we can get to do all this online. I think overall I'm very happy with what we had.
Good to know. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you, Stella and
Thank
David.
you.
That's all for our discussions. And we'll move on now to the next panel discussions. In the next discussions, they will talk about distributions, location-based entertainment, and also monetization. And today we have different speakers with us. First of all, we have Grace Lee from Kaohsiung VRrOOm. Kaohsiung VRrOOm is a pioneer in Taiwan who has produced or provides subsidies and supports to many initial VR films in Taiwan. So we'll be very happy to hear from Grace Lee. The second one is Camille Lopato from Diversion Cinema, and will also be moderated. This session will be moderated by New Images Festival representative Ali Levasseur that welcomes our next panel discussion. As we are still waiting for moderator Ellie to get online, so we'll wait for her for a few seconds, just a second. Thank you. So while we're waiting for Ellie, do we have Grace online? Oh, is Ellie here?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, the floor is yours.
Hello. Shall we start now or shall we wait for?
I think we can start. Thank you.
Okay. So hi everyone. My name is Elie Levasseur, head of New Images XR Market. And I must say, I'm very, very excited today to present this panel on immersive distribution as part of this Taiwan X France XR Day. I think distribution is today one of the most important questions for immersive artists and producers. We often hear people saying there is no market and there is no chance to have one as long as headset penetration rate remains low. This assessment is very often a dissuasive argument for financiers and to invest into XR production. And of course, I mean, without distribution, there is no point to produce. And this is why it is essential for creators, but also for anyone who wants to push this ecosystem to take up the subject. And the good news is that this is exactly what we are going to do, or at least try to do today, give you concrete leads and tips to successfully address the question and activate distribution opportunities that match your project. So please welcome our two experts. We have with us Camille Lopato, founder and CEO of Diversion Cinema, a French company specialized on immersive distribution since 2016. Hello, Camille.
Hi, everyone.
How are you
Thank
doing today?
Yeah. I'm good. I'm very good. Thank you very much.
Great. And we have also on this panel Grace Lee, head of the VR Film Lab and curator of the XR section within Caution Film Festival. Hi, Grace.
Hi, everyone.
Very happy to have you in.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here. Also very happy to can have the talk with Camille and Ellie as well. So looking forward to it.
Great. So to open this friendly conversation, I suggest to start with a project you both know very well, which is Ayahuasca, directed by Jan Kunen. So maybe, Camille, would you like to tell us more about the project itself and also the challenges you face in terms of distribution?
Yes, thank you very much. I will try to be quick. I have the tendency to talk too much. And as distribution is a very important subject and a very diverse, there's many ways of addressing it. I will try to be short. Regarding Ayahuasca, it was actually one of the first projects that we acquired. And we already know at that time, it was in 2018, the year that we actually started with the distribution department. We knew at that time that business model in distribution, in VR distribution, were difficult to find. And because it was an experience that also needed to be shown on expensive devices, we really need we had this intuition that we should give people an experience that was not only what happened in the mask, but something that would gather more people for a longer time. And to be able to give context also around the experience, because Ayahuasca Cosmic Journey is a trip, Jan Kunen's trip and Jan Kunen's experience with Ayahuasca, which is a drug that you take during a healing ritual in the Amazonia. And the whole story that Jan told us about what is Ayahuasca for him changed our understanding of what was the VR experience. And it sounds very important to us. It feels very important to us that we will be able to share this context. And that's why we produced an exhibition around the VR experience. If I can share my screen, maybe I can show you a little bit what we thought about. Or if someone can show my slide as you want. But the idea was to put around this experience a context. And so and I think this is also very interesting, that when you distribute VR experiences, you very often find yourself doing something else or something more that only distributes VR experiences, because we actually don't know what it really means. At that moment, we didn't know how to address the market, which was the public. So we needed to try new models and new ways of reaching the public. But we also had this intuition, and maybe Grace, you will agree or not. So this is yes, thank you. This is the kind of the plan, a map of the exhibition that we made. We had this intuition that we wanted to attract people that were not interested with the technology. we wanted to attract people interested with ayahuasca. The theme that Jan Koenen chose was very modern, very important. Again, the context around it super interesting, and we knew that there was like a audience out there that will not be interesting in VR, but will be interesting in ayahuasca. And the exhibition that was also a way to attract them to discover VR and Jan Koenen's creative proposition. Maybe what do you think, Grace, about that? Do you agree on? Because yes, the exhibition traveled a little bit. Sorry.
And
it was part of the VR Film Lab.
Yeah. I think for ayahuasca is a very interesting case for us because because we run in a venue in LBE venue in Kaohsiung, which is we located in Pier 2 Art Center. Actually, the location is quite a mixing purpose. Like we have artists here, but like 90% people is like a tourist because the family they would love to come in by in the holidays or like in the weekends, so they can explore the space. So like in the past, we launched this LBE space in 2018. So usually in the past, most of I would say like 80 or 19% our customer is passing by customer. So I think it's a good sign because like most of the customer, they are passing by, but they are really interested in VR and they will buy ticket to see it. But one of our main challenges for us is we want customer like they coming in purpose to see the contents. So that was our main focus, that how can we attract the people to coming to see VR, because we also run a festival, but we feel the challenge is that the festival audience is really different with the general public. So for ayahuasca, I would say it's a successful case because when we launch these contents, we collaborate with some of the key influencers in internet. So they discuss this topic before we launch the experience. So in the end, like I would say like almost 90% the tickets is pre-sale. So I think it's really good case because this is kind of what we feel is this content is a game-changing content because we really hope that people can come in to see the content, like you say. They are not only like for experience, they are not only interesting in VR. Instead of the interesting in technology, I think in our experience, it's more easy to talk than a topic. So it's interesting because we have another case like in the midst. It's one of our original contents. I would say it's not really like entertainment content. It's really poetic and also very experimental. But what we try is we also sell the topic and we discuss all the topic or all the issue about this content in the internet before. So it works really great. So I think So what we learned from the market is not you really need to give them something they already know or something they can attract them. So besides that, I think you mentioned a very interesting point and also very important points about the exhibition. Because if you can see, if you only showcase the VR in the venue, it's really like, it's not very interesting because it's only a person wearing a headset. It's quite boring. So when our experience is if you want to attract them, you really need to give them some like the visual attractive. You need to give them the picture of the image can attract them. So I think the ayahuasca is a great case because you create like a unique experience. It's like we create a ceremony so they can go when they step into the space. It's already started experience. So yeah.
Well, one question for you, Grace, is before distributing this project in Taiwan, how did you suspect this project has a great potential? For Taiwanese audience.
Actually, because this content has already showcased in our festival before. So usually what we do is after the festival, we will review some of the contents that has a good review from the audience. So at the moments before we invite this project to LBE, we already showcase it during the festival. And in the festival, we already know it's quite successful. Yeah. So this is the way we do for both from festival side. We launch our experience after the festival. Yeah.
And Camille, can you tell us if this project has been also distributed online?
Yes, so Ayahuasca Cosmic Journey is distributed online. We actually are not the French producer who is handling the online distribution at Clavier. But yeah, just to finish about the exhibition, and I think it's something that maybe we should talk about, is like, as I said, it was our first exhibition. And we realized afterward that we did too much. We wanted, because we were a little bit stressed, let's say, about it. We wanted this to be a success. So the whole content and the whole building, we even thought of how to build the exhibition in order to, because we wanted to have clients. And so we thought the most we do, so we have all the plans, all the building stuff, all the budget for it, the easier it will be to commercialize. And we quickly realized that we were completely wrong, that most of the venue that we actually addressed has their own solution to build the exhibition. They wanted to have something very specific, and that at the end, we were to deliver kind of feelings of the exhibition and digital files that would be printed, used, reprint in different sizes, etc. We of course give our okay to do that, but we realized afterward that we spent too much money in trying to fulfill something that we thought venues will need, but at the end didn't. They didn't want to do it. So that was a big takeaway from this experience. Also, I have to say that the experience was ready at the end. The exhibition was ready at the very end of 2019. So obviously, as 2020 was not the best year for LBE, it was also a bit complicated. But still, that was a very interesting case because we understood what venue wanted to have and what freedom they wanted to have as well.
And would you think this is the case for all the project, or it was just particular to this project? What's your feeling?
I think it was. It's more particular to the venue we were addressing, because we try to address museums. And venues in general, but mostly cultural venues that already had quite a strong idea of how they want to present it, how they want to present the exhibition. So they were happy with the content, but they wanted to have in their hands how to present it to the public. And I guess it's normal. I mean, it's their job, but somehow we thought it would help them if we thought of everything, which was a mistake, obviously, because they know their public. We don't really know their public, and they know how to address it, and they have their own way to do things, and they like it. So we should let them.
Okay, and there are usually two main options for distributing an XR experience. So you have online and location-based. We just discussed. By location-based, I mean all real-life places like festivals, museums, amusement park, and other places like this. But the question is, what question must be addressed by the producers to identify what is the best option for the project? How do you manage this question yourself? Maybe Camille?
Yes. Thank you. I think we need to have in mind that the VR industry is very young and still searching for itself. So we can have intuitions of answers right now regarding the past experience and what we understood, but the landscape is changing all the time. So we also have to make sure that we are not too confident of what we know and be able to rethink every 6 months, to rethink a little bit our ideas and to check in different countries where the market is. But yes, I will say that we observe a tendency since a few months, maybe a year and a half. A lot of VR projects that I read are for or made for or with the idea that they designed. Yes, thank you. Designed for museums. There was like a huge increase for this kind of experience. But I think that people should be a little bit more careful because again, this is something that we learned with ayahuasca. Museums are very aware of what they want, of what they need, and and if they want an immersive or a VR or an immersive project, they will co-produce it because they have, at least in France and in Europe, they have money for it. So we have to be very careful when you have an idea and you are thinking this is for a location-based entertainment venue. I will target museum. Make sure that you have a museum on board already. Make sure that this is not only in your head, but you actually have a real plan and a real partner that will help you afterwards to commercialize it in other museums. Sorry, I'm not. Was it your question?
Yeah. Maybe Grace with you. With the VR lab. I mean. When do you think this question related to distribution have to be addressed? I mean, at what stage of development of the project, the artist or the producer need to think about this? From your experience?
Before answering your questions, I just thinking about one thing I would like to say before. Because when Camille say about ayahuasca, I totally agree. Like the markets change rapidly, like every day. Until now. So one thing I need to say, like we would like to open mind every day, like every case is an individual case. Because I remember first time when I talked to Camille in Cannes, like Camille was asked me like, did you want to distribution ayahuasca in your LBE space? But at the moment, I actually not sure about our audience, especially in Kaohsiung, can accept that. I remember so I'm wrong actually. So so sometimes we are still wrong. So but for the case is like after ayahuasca doing the LBE show in Taipei successfully. So we acquire we also we have the evidence, or we can say we have the market confidence for in Taiwan. So after that we do in Kaohsiung. But yes, I just want to, I just remind like something we are not always right, but we always learning from markets. So yeah, to answer your questions, yes, because we are also be like a co-producer for our originals projects. I would say something very important is that when you develop or when you do the pre-production for the projects, you really have to think about the distribution and also think about your audience. For example, usually when we discuss with our curators or our directors. We will make strategy for the festival. So like which festival we should go, because I would say like every festival has a different unique taste. Yeah, so you can see your projects. Maybe you can go to which festival, and also for VR experience, it's not only for film festival. Some of the festival you need to like more open, like a museum or like a digital art. So it's more you need to search more, study more. And I would say definitely you need to talk about something experience in distribution, like talk to Camille. Even they didn't distribute your projects in the end, but I would say it's definitely interesting to listen to them because they know the markets. So they listen to their advice. So yeah, because from our experience, like for example, for one of our content called Home, when we produce it, we know it should target international audience. It's not only for Taiwan audience, but the story is very local. It's about a family story. In the afternoon, everyone come back to grandma's house, and we have lots of dialogues. So the main challenge for us during the moment, because the director, he doesn't want to have the subtitle in the film, but all is in Chinese. So we kind of have a huge argument between, because he feel like an international audience didn't understand the dialogue is okay. But during the moment, because we cannot find a solution about it. So actually, what we do is we find a different audience like internationally. We invite them to see the content. So we do like a taste. So after we do the taste, like some of the international audience can understand the content, but some audience cannot. So in the end, like we make the balance. We have make a agree with director. We will have a key dialogue in the subtitle in the content. So I think it's a good compromise in the end. But in a way, I would say, yeah, thinking about your audience before you finish the production. Yeah, because in our experience in our venues, some of the experience is really good, but it's really not good to sell. For example, lots of our audience will come in our desk, and our staff need to deliver the content in 1 or 2 sentences and to make them attractive. So I'm not saying that you need to make the content that's all very commercial or very like entertainment, but you need to make some of a way to attract audience into your piece. Some of the case we have seen in the industry, like example, maybe you invite famous actor or actress to do the voiceover for your experience. The case like Gumi Eyes or Baba Yaga, it works for when we do the press markets. So yeah, so I would just say that think about your audience before you finish it, and that will works.
Can you tell us more about how to build a festival touring plan? I mean, why should I pick up this festival and not this one? Or, I mean,
well,
what are your advice?
It's really
and the best question is, when do you recommend to go to New Images? Of course.
Well, it's really actually, if we want to talk about like a festival strategy, you will have like a 1 hour or 2 hours. Well, I would say like you can thinking about the festival is not a festival. It's the first time your work to face the audience. So if you make your strategy, like what's your main market and main audience, like if you are targeting United States, you might thinking about Sundance, Southside, and Tribeca, and some of the you can also ask the festival to share their press release list for you, so you can make the press release during the festival. And yeah, so festival is very important because the distributor like Camille, they will come to the festival. And also lots of our contents go to the festival, so people will know it, industry people will know it, and people discuss it, and they get a chance to see it. So we have some of the distributor after the festival will contact us, so to distribute the content. So yeah, so New Image is one of the main important markets in Europe, I would say. I discussed lots of interesting projects in the New Image, especially in the markets. So for example, that this year we showcased the Ball of Paris. It's one of the best experience I have seen in this year. And I remember that project is in the market like 2019. So it's a good way to join festival, even it's in the early stage of development. So you can still find the partners. For me, like I follow up the Ball of Paris after the festival. Even though we didn't invest the project, but we still got a chance to showcase it later in a few years later. Yeah.
Thank you for the promotion. Camille, a question for you. What revenues can a producer expect from a distribution through festivals? I think you have some interesting infographics to share.
Yes, if it's possible for people handling the sharing slide. To see the graphic, I think, as Grace said, festivals, of course, are very interesting to make the project known to the industry and to the public. It's also very often the first time that the project is presented to a real public, so that's interesting to gather their feedbacks. Of course, when it's you have a competition within the festival, it creates values as well around the project, and it makes it easy to commercialize it afterwards. But it's also a way to make money. I mean, maybe not or that's sometimes a bit weird, but not the most important festival. And therefore they don't pay a screening fee. But then you have the second life of the project in the maybe smaller festivals, and then you can have a few screening fees, and I think that should not be overlooked. It can be represent a little bit of revenue for the production company. It's a lot of work, but still it's interesting to make this effort. Also because you create a network around you, and you know it's also well for us that are distributors. It's also a way to have acquisition and to understand what festivals are waiting for, are expecting in terms of new production. So that's very interesting. And then I wanted to say that we talked a lot about LBE, and obviously festivals are part of the LBE. But at some point we were a little bit worried about the future of 360 films, because platforms, online platforms, are also interesting in terms of revenue. And they tend, I'm not talking about Steam VR or this kind of, let's say, more gaming platforms, but I'm talking about a platform that would acquire 360 films for a flat fee. And that could be for a longer period of time. And that could be quite interesting in terms of revenue. But of course, to be able to make this kind of sales, you need to have a 360 video. And so we were at some point a little bit worried because project had this tendency of getting more and more complex in terms of technology. and beautiful, and going further with the engagement of the body, of the etc., and very good for LBE. But we have to have in mind that having a 360 video version of it, when possible, is very useful and can give you a little bit of revenue as well.
And can we share with the audience some kind of, the range of revenue they can expect from either festivals or online platforms, just to have an idea?
Yes, I mean, I can.
It depends on the project, but
it of course depends of the project. You have, as Grace said, you have projects that are much more LBE than others. I mean, and you have projects that, because they are 360 video, they can actually check all the boxes, and they could go to every market, LBE, festivals, and online platforms. If you don't have, if your format is it's not too long, meaning under 20 minutes, and if you don't have too many dialogues, that's obviously the jackpot, because you can address everyone with a very few language barrier, and that's what actually platforms are looking for. I'm not saying that that should be all the content that a producer should produce, obviously, but I'm saying that facilitates a project like, for example, ayahuasca as well. That facilitates the journey of the experience around the planet, because versioning is expensive.
I don't know if actually if it's time to wrap up, or if we can have like 2 or 3 minutes extra, if someone can just tell me. Okay.
Hi. We actually got a question.
Okay.
No, we actually got questions. So maybe we can ask the questions.
Yeah,
so
please go ahead if you have questions.
Yes. The question from online says that now we have several production companies who have also started to have distribution services for their own work or for others. Do you think it will become a common practice for production companies to cover distribution in the future as well?
Is it for me or for Grace?
I think either one can take it if you want to.
Yes, I would say I hope that production companies will make sure that their beautiful experience travel and is seen by the public. Is it for this? I mean, someone should take care of it. Is it production company? If you can have people in-house that are actually taking care of it, and you can still produce, because this is your main focus is to produce, and the thing that you do the best is producing, and still you can have someone in-house that organize the whole distribution strategy and etc. Do it. If you can't, I guess there will be, or there is already, more and more distributors that can do it for you.
We have another question as well. It says that the venue is quite different from one another, and from each other you may have a very different venue design. So when you think about the production and distributions, do you have to think about the exhibition design first, or that can come later after production?
I take it?
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Well, I would say you can have your plan first, but of course you need to discuss with different partners if you need to adapt a different version to adapt the venue. That's what we do. Like we will discuss with curator first, before you have your own plan. But usually, yeah, because we have totally different, too many different space. So you need to see how they can afford for like a physical installation or anything. Yeah, you have to discuss with them. And so I would say like even in every venue, you maybe have the different showcase, but it's really kind of normal. Yeah.
Yes, I guess you should think about it from the beginning, how it will be exhibited, but you should be adaptable until the end. Because as Grace said, the venues are very different, and you shouldn't be too strict about how the space that you need and etc. You should have the most room to adaptation you have, the best it is.
I see, thank you. Any last word from Ellie before we go?
Yeah, but I will say thank you, Camille, and thank you, Grace. Thank you for this short but great conversation, I think. And thank you also to Taika and all the team behind the organization. I hope it was kind of inspiring and enlightening for you too. So thank you, and I wish you all a wonderful end of the day. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you, Ellie. Thank you, Grace. And thank you, Camille.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone, for the sessions. And now we move on to the last session. The last session will talk about platform and metaverse. And this session, we also have two speakers with us. The first one is Maud Clavier from VRrOOm, and the second one is Kurt Liu from XRSPACE. And this session will be moderated by our advisors from TAIWAN. Can we have Kurt on the stage? Thank you.
Hello. Hi. Okay, so this is the last conversation. Thank you for to all of you who are still with us. So we have two. Okay, so we wait for Maud. Maybe I can introduce the two speakers. So we have two speakers today. The first one is Kurt Liu. You're the Content and Marketing Vice President at XRSPACE. XRSPACE is a Taiwan-based company pioneering next generation of social reality. Last year, you launched actually your own device in virtual world,
yes.
The XRSPACE Manova VR headset and the XRSPACE Manova World, where people can meet, connect, work, play together. And you recently launched a new product, GoXR, which is available on mobile devices.
Thank you for having me today. It's a pleasure.
And is Maud with us? Not yet. Well, let me introduce Maud anyway. So Maud Clavier is the COO of VRrOOm, which is a French company that specializes in immersive and social live events and performances. They have delivered some remarkable artistic performances, notably the Jean-Michel Jarre VR concert in Notre Dame, which was called Welcome to the Other Side. And they also build virtual worlds, which most of us here are probably familiar with, because they built the virtual worlds and venues for major festivals such as Venice, South by Southwest, New Images, etc. So we're still waiting for Maud.
It's close to noon or past noon in France. Here she is.
Yeah. Hello Maud. Bonjour.
Hello. Bonjour.
So I already introduced Kurt, and I introduced you as well. So we're about to start the conversation. In general, like the creative and cultural industries have undergone major shifts in recent years. There are at least two very important shifts. The first one is platformization, which is the rise of platforms. It's especially obvious for the audiovisual industries. And the second one is the rise of the creators' economy, which is a bit more obvious for us here. And I would like to start here actually with those two subjects, the platforms and the tools for the creators. The purpose of this talk is actually to discuss the current status and the transition we're going through and explain what are the possibilities for the creators participating in the workshop, those following us. So Kurt, let me start with you. You've built quite an extensive virtual world over the past 2 years. Even probably started even earlier.
Probably more than that, yes.
Yeah, probably a few more years.
Longer than that, yes.
And this is a place where people can work, they can play, they can meet, they can watch movies together, they can play sports, they can share all sorts of experiences with their friends. And in recent months, especially, we've seen a lot of companies releasing virtual worlds or proto-metaverses or mixed reality platforms, but focusing mostly on collaborative work. So it has to do, obviously, with the current situation and the need that people have to work together despite the challenge. But we've seen Facebook with Horizon Workrooms, HTC with ViveSync, Microsoft, and of course the solution of NVIDIA, which is Omniverse, which is like a metaverse for engineers. But from the creator's point of view, what are the opportunities offered by a platform like yours and the future platforms? What do you think what are the possibilities for creators?
Yeah, first again, thanks for having me. And it's as you mentioned, actually, we're quite excited that the tech giants like the Facebook, NVIDIA, Microsoft all mentioned about this metaverse. It's huge right now. So as I mentioned, we started working on the virtual world concept. Even started 4 years ago, and it was quite challenging. So when we see these tech giants start making the market to be aware of the virtual world, which is really great news for the industry. That's number one. Number two, as you mentioned, besides the collaborative works platform, there's also a movement I think it's moving towards favor for the content creator, which is, blockchain technology. Basically, the digital transactions via cryptocurrencies, which makes, digital creations accessible and giving the creators a chance to monetize on their creations. So I think that's very, very, very important. And that's why at XRSPACE, we actually launched a platform called GoXR. Basically, like its name, we're helping people who wants to create in 3D to really step into the XR industry, to the metaverse. So over here, in GoXR, for the creators, you not only offer your creations in artistry, storytelling, or game design. The more importantly is offering the freedom, the flexibility for your creation to be amplified. So for example, artists, you don't just create an object, but you get to create your own room, your own settings, your own lightings to really amplify your artwork. So that's what GoXR will be offering to the artistry. So I think it's really, really exciting. The idea of metaverse really going to release a lot of imaginations for the creators.
I think you talk about the blockchain and how to monetize and how artists get direct access to the viewers. And that reminds me of an example that I use a lot when we discuss about metaverse at TAIWAN. I think one very interesting example is how much the music industry has invested in this, because like music industry has had a complicated history with technology, but we see Warner has been investing so much money in some platforms companies, and Sony as well. So there's really a direction, like
Definitely. I think it's a movement. It's a big movement towards the metaverse for sure. You mentioned Sony Music invested in Epic Games, right? Building the metaverse from a gaming's perspective, but of course hosting music festivals or virtual concerts. So which I believe Maud here also has experience with.
And Maud, we spoke about music. You actually, one of your latest and one of the most impressive experiences you've delivered in recent months is actually the Jean-Michel Jarre concerts organized like with the city of Paris in Notre Dame. Can you tell us a bit more about the tools that you use? Actually, you work a lot with VR chat. Can you explain a bit your choice, the constraints, and what kind of tools you use? What about the workflow and what the things you're also experimenting with, maybe?
Sure. I will double answer your question then. First of all, for the tools we're using Unity. That is a game engine that works with VRChat. So we can build our world on Unity and then publish them on VRChat. It presents a lot of advantages and constraints at the same time. Because as it is a social virtual platform, you need to make very light worlds. And especially more when it needs to be Quest compatible for the headset. But it's accessible to all. Like VRChat, you can be anyone and publish your own world. So for the creative, there is a huge opportunity to learn on how to make design, 3D design, and partner with the developer who will know how to script your world and make interactivity in VRChat. And also there is a huge opportunity for anyone working in the performing arts industry, and you mentioned the music industry, to use the tool you use in real life and duplicate them in VR. For example, for Jean-Michel Jarre, we worked with Yvan Morandini, that is a light designer in real life, accompanying Jean-Michel Jarre since 4 years. And with his tools, we try to find a workflow that is working on Unity, so he could duplicate his real work in VR. And we had a very rich light settings in the Jean-Michel Jarre concerts, and it was very precious to have him. And we rarely have this collaboration between people working in the real industry and the gaming industry, and that's what is making everything so rich, and that creates new opportunity for any creator.
And we discussed about the changes undergone by the creative industries, but actually technology is also like undergoing like major evolutions. I'm thinking for the things related to immersive content about cloud rendering, 5G, and the democratization of those technologies actually will impact the way we will design and share and consume those contents. So I'm curious for both of you, like how are you exploring actually those other technologies? I guess like it will, for every aspect of your work, it may actually have a huge impact, because I guess, for instance, like cloud rendering allows for much higher quality in terms of graphics, and it can be delivered through much lighter and cheaper devices as well. So how does it impact you, Kurt, first maybe?
Yeah, so we couldn't agree more on the cloud rendering, the importance of it. In the future, or even the near future, as the device, we all talk about, device has to be mobile, has to get lighter and smaller, but it has to coincide with the development of the cloud rendering, which really then can mitigate pressure on the client side, on the device side, to handle all the rendering by itself. So yeah, when we design and developed experiences, we think about the future and modularize it, as I mentioned, from the space in 3D, avatars, objects, interactions, all these can be modularized, so it can be deployed to different platforms, different devices, not just VR, AR, PC, tablets, smartphone, you name it. And, XRSPACE actually was founded by Mr. Peter Cho, who was the former CEO of HTC, who, pretty much launched, the first 3G phone, first 4G phone, and very, very working closely with operators around the world, including Orange. So, we're always having in mind when we design and developed. And then again, we are also looking into cloud rendering because again, metaverse is about visual. It's about contextual experience. So visual is very important. And if you have a high resolution rendering, then that definitely it's a technology that worth looking into.
And Maud, for you?
Sure, as I hear myself in my headphone, I have to do it this way. For me, of course, every technology that is going to be later for the headset, for the connection, for anything will help us. But in the meantime, I care a lot, we care a lot at VRrOOm to make our content accessible on all devices, and that's why broadcasting is so important to us. As for the Jean-Michel, we had 75 million views on our project because we've been careful about the way we produce and direct the film for 2D broadcasting on TV, the way we direct the 360 version of it that was very successful in Asia, and the music part in binaural for the radio and the virtual reality part. So yes, I'm looking forward to lighter technology, to all the telecoms and everyone that is working on that to ease the process. But I still believe to have a standardization of the device is not for too soon. Everybody will have the same device and everything. So I think to conceptualize every project on a multi-platform base and be careful about the live stream is important in the industry.
And I guess because everything is more social, it's also important to be able to capture more of the human, reaction, interaction, to make it more natural as well.
That's right. The other part that we think is very important is the avatars. In the metaverse, you basically are represented by your avatars. So if we talk about the importance of interaction, that means the emotional connections, right?
Yeah.
So there's a lot in the avatar technology from generation, right? Avatar generation from single pictures. You can get stylized or photorealistic type of avatars. And then there's real-time tracking, right? From motions to expressions, your eyeballs, your lips, your everything on your face. And then, of course, there's motion from your body to be able to do performances. That's also very important. And finally, there's also voice data, AI-driven voice data where, at GoXR, we also offer a service where you can have your own AI digital agent, which basically, if you're offline, you can still have your duplicate self be able to forever reside in your metaverse and be able to say hello to your friends, and be able, for artists, you can talk about your artwork, and so on. So yeah, avatar technology is also a very, very important area that we look into.
There's something very interesting that's been a bit at the center of our conversation in recent months with some of the people who want to work with Taiwan. 3 years ago, when I invited 3 or 4 years ago, when I invited some professionals, we had a conversation with people from Ministry of Culture, and what the French producers said is very interesting. They said Taiwan has the most complete XR ecosystem in the world, from manufacturing to distribution. And now, for one of the projects that was supported by Taika, the reason why that creator wanted to work with Taiwan is because he realized that all the technologies that will propel the metaverse, or metaverse-like experiences, actually all the 5G component, all the components for low latency, sound, image, encoding, decoding, all that, the servers for cloud rendering, all that brings us closer to this zero latency cloud rendering, like everything is made in Taiwan, everything is designed and made in Taiwan. And so, Kurt, as someone with a Taiwanese company, do you think it's something that, well, you should leverage? Of course you do, but that the creators as well, the creative industries in Taiwan should leverage so they have this competitive advantage?
Yes, definitely. So, like I said, the rise of the metaverse is a very, very exciting time for Taiwan as a whole. As mentioned, we, from manufacturing side of things to technology development, Taiwan really offers a lot. Besides, people know that we work closely with all these big tech giants: Google, Facebook, Apple. For example, Foxconn makes pretty much all the iPhones in the world. But you're right. This is a huge opportunity for content creators. Again, at GoXR, when we will actually make an announcement on Thursday together with Taika, working with top museums in Taiwan, as well as more than 10 artists from Taiwan. The important is this. Taiwan also has a lot of 3D creatives, more than you can imagine, because Taiwan is also a big base for a lot of mobile games from the world. It mentioned Sony and all these game studios. They pretty much ask Taiwanese companies and teams to build these animations to characters, to game design and so on. So this is a time where, in the metaverse, where these 3D creatives, they can really express themselves, their creativities, create their own IPs, and be able to amplify their creativities in the metaverse. So this is a really exciting time for the 3D creatives in Taiwan.
And Maud, what is your approach? Like, what kind of technologies, or what do you expect from the next 12 to 24 months at VRrOOm? What kind of technology do you want to leverage? What kind of tools are you waiting for, or what kind of opportunities?
We are waiting for many opportunities regarding the headsets, first of all, because we are tracking all the headsets that are in the market, and the one with eye tracking will be a key changer for us, because we do believe in, as you said, avatar performances, with a look watching the audience in the proper places, even though you have a banana avatar. I mean, the intention here is irreplaceable. So all those technologies that allows a higher performer acting, like motion cap suits. There is already Rococo and good brands, but maybe it could be even lighter and easier to dress on top of those mocap suits. The eye tracking, hand tracking, anything that is tracking the performer in a better way. And on the avatar side, I'm not waiting too much for the very realistic avatars, even though it will be there, but it is not yet, and it's very disturbing for the human brain to see a human that is almost realistic, but that is not. It's the problem on Sansar, a platform on which when you see people dancing, they look a bit weird because they look real and not real at the same time. So I really do believe there is an opportunity for creative to create new social codes in the metaverse, to create new appearances, new avatars, new ways to connect together, new intimacy with the stars, to have a lower audience in the virtual world also work as an intimacy system, because we cannot be more than 40 in a room in VR chat and then it duplicates. So yes, anything that makes the performer have a lighter system to perform in VR. Same with Jean-Michel Jarre. For his first concert, he performed with a virtual reality headset on his eyes. And the second time, he just did the motion capture with the screens broadcasting the audience in VR chat. And I wish that later on we would be able to have a very light headset plus motion cap bodysuit to have a really mind-blowing performance.
And to conclude, before we take the questions, I want to follow up on what Kurt said. Like, one thing that struck me when I visited some game studios here or 3D studios in Taiwan a few years ago is that they're working on very big IPs actually. Like I've seen like some of them working on Final Fantasy, Resident Evil.
Exactly.
Actually, the whole VR part of Resident Evil 6 was made like in Taiwan, and this is something people don't really know, and the capabilities are huge, and I think it goes back to the original idea and motivation of this workshop, which is really to put together people with very different backgrounds, different profile, and so they realize that actually there is everything here already to actually take the lead.
Yeah, so yeah, definitely. So that's why we want to encourage all these creatives that we talk about in Taiwan here. This is the time where you can, again, build your own IPs, right? You know, you can work independently and really unleash your creativity. You can speak for yourself loudly and proudly. And this is really, you know, again, an exciting time for the content creators.
So do we have some questions?
We actually got a questions online. It says, how do Kurt and Maud think about the interest of institutions in the metaverse, for example, in France or in Taiwan? And what are they expecting from these agencies or institutions that support immersive creations or works?
Maud, do you feel there is an interest?
Yeah, I'm going to take this off again. So there is a lot of types of institutions in France, and of course the public institution. The striking example is recently the Ministry of Culture, Roselyne Bachelot, our minister. She saw a virtual reality piece called The Bal de Paris. She was very, very impressed, and she decided to have a special funding for virtual reality in culture for the upcoming 10 years, and it's 600 million euro, I guess. So it's quite an impressive move from the politics towards virtual reality. And we have more and more institutions jumping in the space prudently. They don't know so much about it, but they call the agency like us a lot to know what is going on. Also in the museum industry, how to save history through virtual reality, how to have a performing art patrimonial bank in the metaverse. So all those questions are raised by the institutions, but they are not like answered yet, and they are taking their time before jumping in fully.
And our view here is this: simply, we don't know. It's too early. I mean, the idea of this digital world is, first of all, you hear a lot about decentralization, right? So that's one way, definitely, the movement towards that. In addition, you talk about the banks, the schools. I mean, a lot of, including these tech giants, we're all trying different things, and that's the beauty of this exciting journey of metaverse. Is people are trying different things. So I think, I don't want to play like I know it all, because we don't. And I think it's just a primitive stage where we need to try different things, but decentralization it's there using the blockchain technology, cryptocurrency. So that's basically our view at this point right now.
If I can say a few words on behalf of TAICA, because this is actually a discussion that we've had for almost a year now. So there's definitely interest, and I think like the biggest challenge is probably this idea of having different ecosystems who don't really speak the same language, and to connect them together and to kind of translate what they try to say. We got a very interesting case actually that will be shown at TCCF this year, which is called Bedlam. It's powered by tools which are completely relevant for the metaverse, and what's interesting with this case is that it's really it made us understand that what creators are doing can be a very strong case for technology which are already ready, but they don't have the application, or they don't know that they have the application. So actually this shows that there is maybe a way of working together which serves both sides. It's not just the creators who benefit from the technology, but actually some of the technology which is ready, and maybe it's just on the shelves, waiting for having a case. Actually, like 5G headsets, like there are experiences. The tools are already here. Cloud XR is already here. And those things are working, and that's where it becomes interesting, because when creators and the industry works together, like they both have a very strong competitive advantage. And another thing that I think for the French side that is interesting is that there was a paper, a series of articles published in Libération a few months ago, and I think something that they got really right is that they say, like, we need, like, France need to, you know, like, react, because like a lot of major players, Facebook, of course, are positioning themselves, and they talk about openness, but it's very unlikely that openness will be at the heart of the project, and this is what's happening now, is shaping the future of the internet and the way we actually try those experiences. And I think that was, of course, very relevant for France, which is investing in immersive content and which has the capability to deliver these kind of experiences. But this is even more relevant for Taiwan, because Taiwan has a huge advantage, because the hardware is here, the people who can design and produce the hardware are here. So actually we have quite a good quick start, but we need to be aware of the opportunity.
We have another question online. It says that for some people, they view metaverse as an escape. They may escape from the real world violence or real world problems and escape into that. But on the other side, some people may escape from the real world and become criminals in the metaverse in that case. How do you think that could happen, Sans? What do you think do you think any kind of regulation will come into the metaverse in that case?
So again, at this point, I think the metaverse can be anything. That's the beauty of it. Again, so, you know, we talked about the artists, about creator economy, about storytellers, game designer. Games, obviously, it's the forefront of this movement. Criminal. I guess once you have gamifications, you have different social status, you have cryptocurrencies, you have wallets, then, you know, crime can be committed. But at this point, it's too early. You know, we can talk about the metaverse is you know, the duplicate of the real world, only better, right? So I guess then we would just have to have a more powerful virtual police to capture these criminals. Then that's my answer for now.
Can I answer too?
Of course.
Okay. On my point of view, for the moment, we have many virtual reality, like social virtual reality platforms that are not connected yet between themselves. One day they might be. So for the moment, the regulations, they are on each platform, and to have a global metaverse regulation is going to be something very long and very hard, because it's international and even more than international. But for now, in my experience, for example, as someone working on VRChat, that is a platform that does exist, they have some rules that if someone is harassing you, you can keep this person off of the world. So maybe there will be easier police statement to kick people out of the metaverse if they commit several cyber crimes or if they harass people. I'm quite sure we will find some ways to block those people. And you were talking about escaping in the metaverse. It's quite true also. We are producing at VRrOOm an artist that was a bullied kid and that didn't want to show himself anymore in the real world and to perform as a DJ in the real world. So he decided to be an avatar forever and to do his DJ performances in the metaverse. So that questions like your relationship to the real world and how it goes. On the contrary, we had a paraplegic Japanese dancer that would perform for us, because thanks to body tracking, he can pretend to move his legs through some hacking trackers on his hand and shoulders, and he plays it a different way. And this is a very great hope, because he cannot move in real life, he can be a dancer in virtual. So we have both situations, and it's a complex topic.
But just let me add a couple of points. All kidding aside, but I think data privacy and security should be there, always be there. And we talk about Web 3.0 and the openness of the metaverse. So that's something that should be there. When we develop our platform, there's always with the mind of, for example, reporting system and real-time moderators, that kind of stuff. So basic mechanism should be there for people to feel safe and secure within the metaverse. So that's at least that's our point from here.
Thank you very much. Thank you to both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mo. Thank you, Kurt. I think that's the time that we have for the session today. And for tomorrow's, our French professionals will have to have one-on-one meetings with our creative studios in Taiwan as well. And any last reminders for everyone?
Yes, there is a Q&A session with Taika tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. Paris time for the 12 French professionals, followed by the one-on-one meetings. And don't forget that you received an invitation to subscribe to TCCF, so you can register and arrange meetings online during the festival, which starts this Wednesday. Thank you very much. See you tomorrow.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us online and here with us today. Thank you.